What's up, folks? So we're back, and in the last video what I had you do is I had you go over here to your users folder to create the components folder to create the app.js, and this is what we ended up with in the last video. Now in today's video I want you to go over to your source folder and create a new file, and we're gonna name that sagas.js. And you will probably need to get this code off our Google Drive because there's no way I'm gonna go over here and scroll down every single line of code and let you copy and paste that. So if that isn't a call to action for getting you guys to come over and join our mailing list to get this file, then I don't know what is. You're not gonna be able to continue without this file. I'm just gonna lay it onto you straight. So with that said and done, go to our description, which is right below us. Hit that link to join our mailing list. Join our mailing list, and you'll get this file. But with that said, this is Sagas, and Sagas is it's Redux Saga. And how do they describe it? Let me find, there it is, the real description of it, how they say it, which is very clunky, and you have to kind of think about it for it to make sense. It's a library that aims to make application side effects, asynchronous things like data fetching, and impaired things like accessing browser cache easier to manage, more efficient to execute, easy to test, and better at handling failures. So this means that the mental model is a Saga is a separate thread in your application that's solely responsible for side effects. So it's a Redux middleware, which means the thread can be started, paused, canceled from the main application with normal Redux actions. It has full access to the Redux application state and can dispatch Redux actions as well. It uses a feature called generators to make the asynchronous flows easy to read, write, and test. By doing so, the asynchronous flows looks like your standard synchronous JavaScript code. Okay, that's a mouthful. So what does that really mean? So imagine that you have one thread which is responsible for running your application. So Redux Saga pretty much just spins up another thread, and they both can read up to this Redux store that's right here. So when you call a function to fetch data from your API, we're actually spinning off a different thread. And this one will actually go call your store, call that API, and block, wait for the response. And when that data comes back, then it will take that data and go to your Redux store. Okay, so your Redux store is right here. You have your database right there. And you have your main thread, your Redux thread. Your Redux thread makes an API call, goes over here, grabs the data, or wait for the data, and when the data comes back, it takes that data, goes up over here, and changes the state of the Redux store. So that's how I understood this, and that's pretty much what our code does. It's actually really easy if you look into the documentation some more, but if you're lazy and you don't like looking at documentation, then I'm your only chance, buddy. So if we take a look at, let's try an easy one. So let's take a look at this login user. You can see that at line 41 it has this yield call. That yield call is pretty much calling an API. The api .loginUser is an endpoint, and the action.user data is the parameters that we put in, pretty much the email and the password. So you'll do this yield call. The call is pretty much the keyword that we use to say, okay, we're gonna make an API call in most of the cases, or almost all of the cases in this sagas.js. After we get that, then we will do the storeTokens, which is really only for logins and sign up. This yield put pretty much just, okay, we got the data back from the API, so we got to put that data somewhere. This yield put will actually call the actions, the Redux actions that we talked about in the last video, and it will put that data, well, the actions will actually call the reducers, and it will take all the data that was in the response data, and it will update that in the Redux store. So that's basically it. about sagas, and after that we just navigate to their profile because they're logged in now. We should let them into their account and let them see their profile. But the store tokens, it's a little thing that we changed. I took all this code from my web app and just plopped it in here and adjusted it so that it works for my Dancing Nomads mobile app. So again, in this case, async storage is like our cookies. We're setting the Firebase auth token and the email. And what these tokens, they're pretty much just tokens. Auth is a token, it's a JWT token, JSON Web Token, that pretty much describes the user that we got back. Firebase auth token is, I did this really weird thing of, okay, I want to learn about Firebase, so I made my authentication way more complicated than it really needs to be. So it's a learning experience. I wasn't being stupid. Well, I was being a little bit stupid, but the Firebase auth token is just a token that is assigned by Google, and it's just something that I use to tell that the user is logged in. It's really not entirely necessary, but it is kind of necessary, and we'll talk about that at a later date. Just know that the auth token and the Firebase token are pretty much the kind of things that we look at that we use our app to detect to tell us, okay, this user is logged in. And the email is just there because, I don't know, I have no idea. I don't remember what the email is for. I think it's just easy access because I don't want to look into the user, or there was some case where I wasn't able to access the store, so, or the email was wiped out, so it was always easier to have the email as a cookie, or in this case, an async storage item. So that's what store tokens is all about, and that's pretty much all I wanted to cover in this video because it's a lot. So if you're interested, then really go to the GitHub page for Redux Saga. They have a bunch of documentations here. You can look about it, learn about it. It'll be great reading material for a bedtime story or something if you're a crazy biatch like that. Anyways, please rate, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. We would really appreciate it. And again, join our mailing list, and because you're gonna need this file, and the only way to get it is through that mailing list if you want to get it for free, actually. So that's it. I'll see you guys next time.